We had some powerful storms yesterday, dumping some very large hail, and more is on the way. Then we'll be tracking a powerful low pressure center that will be coming up the East Coast, dumping some heavier rains for them and higher winds going into Sunday into Monday time frame. So let's start off with the overall water vapor imagery this morning. We've got a lot of drier air that's filtering in out west. They're going to remain high and dry out there and also going to be heating up in a big way. But through the middle of the country, been watching this powerful low pressure center. That actually was the beneficial factor that dumped some beneficial rains into portions of Kansas, as well as a good part of Oklahoma. Further south, that's the ones that brought all the higher hailstones south of the DFW Metroplex yesterday. Now that same systems continue to shift off to the east, impacting portions of Louisiana this morning, back into Arkansas, into Mississippi, into Georgia. And then we'll be watching another strong cold front that's going to be diving in from Wyoming through the Rockies and going to be setting up another severe weather threat for your day on Friday. So let's take a look at the hail swath yesterday, because man, we had some massive hail just south of DFW. Storms erupted around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. Pretty good hail swaths of 2, 3, 4 inches in diameter. Very large hail, as well as even into portions of Florida. I can't believe all the hail they've been getting out there. And I was seeing actually some pictures out there into Florida by Palm Bay. Got 5 to maybe 6 inches stacked. I mean, where it was just like covering the ground, and it almost looked like it was snow out there. In fact, let's take a look at some of those hailstones. This was actually in Dublin, Texas yesterday. They had golf ball to tennis size hail out there. And then over near Waco, they also had very large hail. This was actually up to grapefruit. That is 4.5 inches in diameter, guys. That is some dangerous stuff. That usually travels about 100 miles an hour. So that's why it's always safe to wear a helmet during high impact events, during tornadoes, as well as large hail events like this. And Texas is known for some pretty big hail this time of year. So in fact, if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. I'm almost up to 175,000 followers, which I would love to reach by the end of April. So definitely help me get there. And it's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. And if you're in the market for a weather station, I highly recommend the Tempest Weatherflow weather station. I know a lot of people have actually taken advantage of this on this channel, and I greatly appreciate your support. And if you'd like to have one of these for yourself, the cool thing about it is it's all solar. It usually takes about 10 minutes to install. It's a 5-in-1 system. So once you set it up, you forget it. I mean, it basically controls itself. I haven't touched it in 3 years, the one I've had personally myself. So if you'd like to purchase one, I do have a discount of 10% and free shipping. And here's the link, and I'll actually have it in the description below, and there is my discount code. So let's take a look at the setup for today, because those are the same storms will be continuing southbound. So it's really along the coastal regions. They're going to have to be concerned about stronger storms, higher wind gusts, and some larger hail associated with it, especially in the very deep South Texas into the Rio Grande Valley region. Could be some very large hail this afternoon into that corridor, but especially along the coastline into New Orleans, back into Mobile, back into the Florida Panhandle. And yes, again, even into parts of Florida, could see some more larger hail later on this afternoon as that powerful system would continue to shift southbound. And you can already see Friday's setup already starting to come to fruition across portions of Wyoming and in Nebraska. And that is going to be rapidly diving southbound and setting the stage for more severe storms on Friday. But here's the setup over the next 24 hours. So the beneficial rains continue right around that low pressure center into Oklahoma, into Arkansas, traveling southbound into Louisiana. That's where you got to be concerned about further south into Texas today, about the stronger activity of thunderstorms. But as these traverse across, and if the further you live along the coast, the higher rain amounts you're going to be able to receive along these coastal regions, especially into the Florida Panhandle. That gets up into the Carolinas. This is just your rainfall over the next 24-hour time frame as you're watching our another system that will be diving in from the middle of the country. that is the same system that's going to be diving southbound. So here's the setup on Friday. It's got a powerful low pressure center. Yes, that is more snow in the Rocky Mountains there. I know you're probably over it by now, but we have a pretty dynamic system, and it's got a lot of cold air with it. Cold core aloft, powerful low pressure center. And that's going to be diving southbound as the winds start to turn around across portions of Texas again, regenerating the atmosphere. So by the time that actually system gets here, yeah, it's going to be a prime time setup for all three modes of severe storms, as that initial system that's infecting the coastlines today will be traveling northbound, impacting portions of Ohio, getting into West Virginia, through the Carolina regions into your Friday afternoon. But there's the setup going into Friday. So you got the ridge of high pressure headed up out west. You got high and dry conditions. Things just rapidly heat up in a big way. You'll be experiencing well above average temperatures. And then you got a pretty strong cold front. I mean, look at that. It's just right along that low pressure center. There's areas back here into West Texas, Amarillo, say Lubbock. You won't even get out of the 40s on Friday. That is some cold stuff for this time of year. That tells you how dynamic this cold core system really is. And once it taps into the warm sector further south, you've got a situation that's going to unfold, because there's got a lot of moisture coming back into play. Back in here into Texas, there's the dry line setup as this will come across. So this is about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Notice the warm front and the higher dew points reaching the Red River areas. So that puts pretty much the entire area over the DFW Metroplex, traversing southbound along the I-35 corridor, extending all the way into Austin, San Antonio, really extending all the way into the Del Rio area, into the Laredo area. That puts all those areas well within the warm sector as that dynamic system will be approaching. And this is why the infrared satellite picture looks the way it does, because I think storms erupt right along that boundary. It's likely going to be around after 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday afternoon, as it's almost like a deja vu type of setup with more severe storms and very cold cloud tops. Some of those cloud tops reaching 50, 60,000 feet, capable of producing those huge, massive, larger hailstones. Some of the ones that maybe you've seen that was like we did yesterday. And look at Florida again. We got another system coming through. So again, it could be like maybe a deja vu type setup, because here's the setup upgraded from the Storm Prediction Center of another enhanced risk across the DFW Metroplex, extending south through the Waco region. That extends into portions of central Texas, but right along this boundary is, I think, storms are going to be erupting in the heat of the afternoon. It's a peak heating event, guys, and that will be fishtailing further south, and we could see storms really kind of erupting from all the way from the border of Oklahoma and Texas all the way down into the Laredo region, with the massive supercell thunderstorms that could erupt right along this boundary. And then we'll be looking for more storms looking to unfold, back into Florida again on Friday. So, but here's the hail risk. Again, we have another hatched risk, a pretty large hatched risk right along that boundary. So really anywhere in this zone could actually see some of those 2-inch in diameter larger hailstones, kind of like the ones we saw yesterday. And then have a greater probability of seeing even, some of those larger hailstones within the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Dallas. That encompasses Dallas and Fort Worth, as well as into Waco, and that will extend into portions of central Texas. And Texas, like I mentioned, is no stranger. We're actually coming up into the anniversary of the largest hailstone in Texas history. Just 2 years ago in Hondo, Texas, down there by San Antonio. This actually came through the roof and landed in the living room, coming up with an estimated 6.4 inches. This was certified and was labeled the largest hailstone ever to fall in the state of Texas. And the one yesterday was 4.5 inches. And I showed you that one that fell near Waco. So yeah, Texas is no stranger to large hail for this time of year. And unfortunately, they could have more on the way on Friday, because here's the setup. This is after 3 o'clock. So I'm thinking this is after 3 o'clock event. this whole boundary should really start to erupt with supercell thunderstorms, literally from the Red River across the DFW Metroplex, heading southbound along this regions, basically west of the Fort Worth region, and then head east. So I think this is a quick, intense event, but these could be numerous broken supercells lined up with very large hail potential with this particular setup, as this will be traversing across during the peak heating event hours of after 3 o'clock. I know a lot of people will be on their way home from work, rush hour traffic, later on to the evening time frame, early evening. So I think it's after 3, and then it traverses, eastbound 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock into the early evening time frame, with very large hail. So, and then a lot of high winds, obviously, with that same system. So the same system that's setting up shop across portions of Wyoming and Nebraska today will be traveling southbound right along this corridor. So it sets up some very high winds over the next 2 days, right around that low pressure center, as it reaches into your backyard. And then once we get into your Saturday time frame, I think things clear out, especially after the morning time frame in a good part of Oklahoma and as well as into Texas. But so by the time we get into back into Saturday afternoon, then the rain shield will be over Arkansas, over Louisiana, and then we've got a pretty powerful low pressure center that's going to be taking shape, pulling in some of that Gulf moisture down here into the Gulf of Mexico, as well as we have another powerful upper level low with a lot of cold core aloft and some more cold air dragging down from Canada. And as these will continue going through the day on Sunday, this will start to rapidly intensify down to a 995 millibar low pressure, increasing the winds, increasing the rain amounts, pulling in a lot of that Gulf moisture down here. So we could be looking at some more heavy rains of portions across the southeast through the Carolinas, while this northern side of the system gets its act together. And yeah, that is more snow, guys, could unfold in portions of Wisconsin as we get that colder core aloft, really dragging in some of that colder air down from Canada, as the teleconnections still are negative of the AO and the NAO. So you're going to get some cold shots coming in from the north as these systems come across. And here's the setup going into your Sunday morning. I mean, these are low temperatures, so it does have some colder air associated with it. And yes, it could be cold enough right at the freezing mark to transfer some of that from rain to snow, up here into portions northern side of Minnesota, especially the central and northern side of Wisconsin, as this will traverse across. But yeah, the main setup as we get into your Sunday, Monday time frame is this powerful low pressure center dumping some heavier rains. And so it's not going to be obviously cold enough up here to snow or anything like that, but this is going to be a big time rain event and some higher winds, easily 40, 50. We can't rule out some 60-mile-per-hour wind gust within this region, as this will continue to move up the coast on Sunday going into Monday. And here's your precipitable water index. Yeah, pretty high levels of water content value up here. 1.5 inches. The further you live along the coast in the Jersey region, yeah, some of these areas could up at times 1.5, maybe 2 inches per hour. So we're probably looking at some isolated flash flooding type setups, especially as we get into Sunday night, Monday morning time frame. Because here's the overall water vapor imagery as we get into that Monday morning time frame. We'll be watching that powerful upper level low, further to the north, dragging in some of that colder air. You got dry air back behind it, but out ahead of it, you're in that sector where it's going to be dumping that heavier rains right here into the New York City area, back into Rhode Island areas, into Connecticut, Massachusetts, and that will be moving up the coast, eventually impacting Vermont and New Hampshire and heading up into Maine, going into later in the day on Monday. So here's the breakdown on the rain amounts. There's not much rain to speak of out west. I think you kind of remain high and dry, but for the central U.S., we're still got some leftover showers for the next day or two with Oklahoma. You're not in the severe stuff, but where you get the severe stuff, there's a band, 1.5 inches where those supercell thunderstorms are going to be traversing across. But once you get up into the southeast and especially further along the coastal regions, yeah, some of these could be 3 to 5 inches, especially into the Florida Panhandle here. And once you move up the East Coast, yeah, the further you live along the coastal regions, that's just between now and Monday, guys. So that's 4, 5, maybe 6 inches of rainfall into the Florida Panhandle, southern portions of Alabama, getting into Georgia, and that just traverses up to the Carolinas with easily 1 to 3 inches of widespread heavy rains traversing up to West Virginia, into Delaware, into New Jersey, all up the coast and into the upstate New York portions areas, into New York City. All these areas along the coast will easily get 1 to 3 inches of rain between now and Monday night time frame. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me in the next update while I protect you before and after the storm.